Whoa, what are you doing? We can't use that. We'll get, like, sued or something. Just start the show. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Let's Get Real, the weekly show where three dudes talk to you about entertainment and movies and everything in between, and sometimes we agree and sometimes we don't, but it's always a good time. I'm Nick.
And I'm Will.
And I'm Tom.
And this week, we're going to jump right into it. We've got some movie news to get to first. Really quickly, this week, I don't know if you guys know this, but they're coming out with a show about the video game franchise Twisted Metal. And for those who don't know what that franchise is, when I was growing up as a kid, it was one of my favorite video game franchises, where basically it's kind of like a sort of like a Mad Maxian world where, like, you've got these cars that have guns on them with these crazy characters, and the whole point of the game is just you drive around as these different characters and you basically kill each other. It was a fantastic, like, multiplayer game. Me and my friends used to play it all the time. And it's weird because, like, I saw this news this week, and it was weird because I was like, I don't know who wants this to be a show. Like, if anybody knows anything about the games, the story is very not like what the game is. It's really a multiplayer game at its core. Like, there is a loose story about this guy named Calypso who has, like, this dark carnival, and there's, like, this supernatural thing to it. And later on, they tried to introduce some lore about how, like, if you win the Twisted Metal tournament, you get a wish, and you can wish for whatever. But, like, that's really it. Like, it's not... I just don't understand why anybody would make a show about this, especially when we haven't had a new game since 2012. That's what I want, is a new game. I don't need a show.
You know what? I know exactly why they're going to make a show out of it. Because the Fast franchise is successful. You know? I mean, if there's anything that's shown me that people want to see other people do crazy things with cars, it's the Fast franchise, okay? Everybody that movie franchise has even gotten self-aware to where it points out how insane that it is while it's showing you insanity. Okay? So if that's the case, why not do Twisted Metal, man? It's basically the Fast franchise, but on drugs.
That's fair. You know what? It's funny. I had not even thought of that, but you're probably absolutely correct. That is probably why they did it.
Yeah, it's a good way to copy what's already successful, but with it being just original enough to be its own thing.
That's probably true. I just figured, like, of all the video games you could make a show out of, why that? I don't know who asked for this.
It's funny because I've never played Twisted Metal, but I used to play a game a long time ago that it was like Dungeons and Dragons, but with cars, right? That was similar to that, where you had your cars and you modified them and you changed, and you put, like, different armor on it and different weapon systems and that kind of stuff. And I think that's maybe where they got the Twisted Metal idea. I forgot what it's called, Car Wars or something like that.
I would not be surprised if that's true.
These
games came out, like, in the mid-90s.
Yeah, Twisted Metal is a long-running franchise. Franchise. I think it's like a PlayStation 1 franchise,
yes,
if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Like,
I was there from day one.
I was there
on day one.
Do not quote the dark man.
Sure enough, it was. It was Car Wars, the board game. It was a board game. It wasn't a
Oh, really? A board game?
Yeah, it's a vehicle combat simulation game. Is what it's called. It's what it's billed as.
Interesting.
Yeah.
A vehicle combat board game.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun. Honestly,
so it's kind of like taking Hot Wheels and combining it with, like, a board game.
Well, it wasn't like Monopoly, right? It was a different type of game. It wasn't really like that type of board game, but you know, you didn't.
This just tells me that for the longest time, people have had a fascination about just doing crazy crap with cars,
right?
And
well, I think it came out
to invest time in it
when the Road Warrior came out, right? That was the first time when we saw that, at least here in the States, and it's the first time I saw it, right? When the Road Warrior. So then suddenly everybody wanted to. That was so cool. I want to do that. So
yeah.
Well, I'm curious. We'll have to review it when it comes out.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be. I might tune in just to see, and I mean, who knows? Maybe it'll be good.
It's got Anthony Mackie, right?
It does have Anthony Mackie.
You just cast him, yeah.
From what I understand, the guys who wrote the Deadpool movies are working on it, and those movies are really funny and really inventive. So, you know, they might make something good out of it. I just was kind of surprised by that choice.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I agree on that.
Well, something else that happened this past week. The Matrix Resurrections just dropped another trailer. Did you guys watch it?
Of course I did.
You of course, well, of course you
watched
did.
the
Yeah.
Matrix trailer.
All right. So, Tom, what did you think?
I did not.
Wait. You have a movie podcast and you did not watch a Matrix. Matrix is probably one of the most iconic film trilogies in the history of cinema. And a new movie drops and you don't even watch the trailer.
For varying reasons.
Fair point.
I love the first Matrix. The other two I wasn't super big on, but I love the first one.
Well, you should love the first one. It's a damn classic.
It is. I agree.
It's a classic film at this point.
I agree.
I think the Matrix itself is just like this crazy awesome thing that just like. You let me down, Nick. I don't understand how you didn't know you should be watching that. If we would have to talk about the Matrix trailer. Whatever.
Doghouse.
Well,
what did
meet
you
Nick.
guys think about it? What did you guys think about it?
Well, yeah. Well, don't worry about Nick. Obviously he's lost. You tell me.
You know. So I was confused.
You tell me.
I was confused at first until I realized that it's actually because it looked like it was a reboot. Right, because Neo now is not, he doesn't remember again, that kind of thing. And so I was confused until I kind of did some research, and it turns out that it's after, if you watch the last one, right? He completed the cycle, but it repeats itself again and again and again. So now it's repeating itself. So he has to relearn everything from scratch. At least that's the story that I'm reading. So I'm intrigued how they're going to make it different.
Well, from what I've heard, it goes even deeper than that. Because I've heard not only does it follow after the original trilogy, but anything that the Wachowskis have said is canon, which includes the video game, which everything that happened there is canon, which people are saying is the reason why Lawrence Fishburne is not in the movie as Morpheus.
Interesting.
Yahya Abdul-Mateen, I think I pronounced his name
That
right.
was pretty good, yeah.
Yes. He is currently playing our new Morpheus, and he's obviously moving around, much younger guy. But see, my thing would be this: they've got Carrie-Anne Moss there. She's back as Trinity. We've got Neo there. Everybody looks different and older. The reason why you can't use an older Morpheus is because in that Matrix video game, the online video game, Morpheus dies. And it was a big plot point of the whole thing. So the Wachowskis are saying this is canon, and they're going to still stick with that. And from what I've heard, that is the case. That would be the answer on why Lawrence Fishburne wasn't called back for this, because Morpheus is technically dead.
Right. So
and that would mean that when we're going back, it's younger Morpheus.
Right. So
for some reason.
There is precedent for a change in character. Remember, the Oracle started out with one actress, and that lady passed away, so they had to recast, and they made it just part of the story. Right.
Correct.
So it was just she mentioned the fact that they evolve, the program evolves and changes, and it was a natural thing. So Morpheus is not a program, or so we thought. So I'm wondering, if there might be something there, right? So, I mean, it's the whole conspiracy theory stuff, but.
Well, here's what I think. I think that Neo, I think the system, it's restart again, just like you said, Will, and that Neo is being kept prisoner in like his own version of the Matrix is what I got from parts of this the story. That like the Matrix within the Matrix, a different version of control on him. Because, they talk about how they did it several different times. They always have to deal with Neo. The cycle repeats itself. But the machines are like, all right, look, this time we're not playing around. Let's just put him in this little, away from the other ones, from the other ants over here. And so he can't cause any trouble.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So
I don't know. I think that'd be cool.
So,
what do you think, Nick?
Right, Nick, what do you think?
I mean,
wait.
I think it'll be really
Having not seen anything. Yeah, you didn't see it.
I think it'll be really interesting when I watch the trailer. And I think if someone invites me to go see the movie, or if it's streaming, I'll probably watch it.
The crazy part, Tom, was when that hatchet came down and split Neo's head in half. That was the wildest thing I saw in the trailer. So, Nick is going to be looking. Nick is going to be looking for that scene. Where's that scene that Will talked about on the trailer? I don't see it. I'm watching the wrong trailer.
I'm furiously typing now to go find it.
Yeah, so last week we actually had a chance to talk a little bit about Shang-Chi and what we all were thinking. And yeah, I know they had some great projections for the box office. Turns out those projections were right on target. They did really well, did very well. People are, they're doing the same thing that they were doing back when Fast 9 and, the other couple of movies that actually made some money this year came out. They're telling us that the box office is back and theaters are back, baby, and all of that's going on. I've heard nothing but good things about Shang-Chi. I gotta say, as the guy who was one of the main skeptics on last week's episode, I've heard out of everyone that I know that has seen it has loved it. And tells me that I will love it when I finally see it. So I actually can't wait to check it out. Or I can wait. I'm not going to go see it in theaters, but I will definitely catch it once it's available on my Disney Plus that I'm already paying for.
Well, it just so happens that I sent you an email earlier today saying, hey, we're getting a group of people together to rent a private theater. Do you want in?
Oh.
So
Is
something
that
to consider.
In Hampton, though? I think that's what that said, was up in Hampton. That's like a whole state away. That's like a whole state away, Will.
You don't want to drive 20 miles.
Is Lynn Haven,
Oh, man.
Lynn Haven better one for you?
Lynn Haven actually is better. You got a better chance of getting me, which is funny because I feel like traffic-wise, I don't know that I've made a difference depending on what time we leave. What time we plan it. It might still be the same amount of time for me, but I don't care. It's just not having to cross the bridge and the tunnel.
Guy.
Yeah.
Well, so when you do finally watch it, whether it's with us, with the cool folk, or on your own at home by yourself, lonely in your bedroom, there's
I have a wife and kids. I have a wife and kids. Well, sure. I'm not alone. I'm not alone here.
Well, I mean, it sounds like it because you won't go across the water. Anyway. Your family's lovely, and but suppose there's something having to do with there's a controversy with China among all this, yeah. Yes.
Simu Liu. He's Canadian. He's Canadian. He's a Canadian guy. But if he continues to do well enough, we'll adopt him just like we usually do with Canadians down here. However, he actually did an interview probably about 4 or 5 years ago with the Canadian Broadcast Corporation, where he was talking about his parents immigrating from China. And honestly, what he said was pretty tame. But let me just read you what he said, and you guys will see why it's probably an issue over in China. He says, when I was young, my parents would tell me these stories about growing up in communist China, he said. They lived in the third world where you have people dying of starvation, and they felt that Canada is a place where they can live free and give their child a better future. Now, that's it. But as you know, and certain people like, you just recently had John Cena having to apologize for simply acknowledging Taiwan as an independent country and everything. Mm-hmm. And he got a lot of negative kind of pushback for that from people. But at the same time, Universal's there going, hey, we need this movie to play in China. There's like so much money there in the Chinese market that it's insane. Now, and the crazy thing is that I think it's pretty transparent that Shang-Chi is supposed to be the Marvel movie that goes and plays big in China. They were really, really depending on that market. Now it's looking like it may not play in China at all, which Black Widow's global box office was also hurt by not playing in China this year.
Mm.
So there's been lawsuits and stuff going on over that. So
yeah, that's been a whole situation. That's a whole other situation. And the thing that's also kind of an issue there for Simu Liu is Avengers Endgame made a lot of money in China. It's the highest grossing MCU movie in China, of course. People loved it. So if China blocks Shang-Chi from coming to China, all right, what's that to say for Shang-Chi as a character in the MCU itself? Okay, you have this movie that's obviously loved. It's doing well. Okay, of course they could go ahead and they could kind of have Shang-Chi exist in its own pocket, but that's not what the MCU is. If Shang-Chi isn't going to eventually show up and be in the Avengers movie, what is he doing here at that point?
I can't imagine him not joining the second iteration of the Avengers. I just can't imagine. I mean, every character was an Avenger, right? So,
correct. But my other thought there would be, it's got to be able to play in China. That's one of those things that it's got to be able to play in China. And if they block him on these comments here, that's going to block him from really any other movie. They'll just use the same thing unless he does an apology. And honestly, if I were him, I don't see how he apologizes for that.
Right.
This isn't like John Cena's situation.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. Like
it's crazy.
I don't know. I don't know what he does in that situation either. Because come on.
I guess it's
you also have to think as for him as an actor, that's something that every studio would also have to look at as well. If it's blocking this movie, well, what else?
Which is what I was about to say was it depends on how much money he wants to lose.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's just. That can get into a conversation for that. We could do an entire podcast about how the.
I thought we were doing a podcast.
So I'm just saying we could do an entire show. We could do an entire hour on how beholden the movie industry is to China, which is something that I don't think a lot of people actually know how dependent they are on those Chinese dollars.
True.
Very true.
But that's what's going on in the world. What's going on in your worlds? What have you guys been watching lately?
Ooh, I like that transition, Nick. Nice job.
Yes, look at you. Yeah.
Thank you.
He's been practicing. I feel like that's what he said in the mirror this morning.
I got a podcast today. I got to do the transition thing. I work on my Well, Tom.
Go ahead, Will.
No, Tom, what are you watching?
What am I watching?
Yeah.
Actually, what I've been watching is movie-wise, I'm going to go ahead and spill it. Man, I watched Malignant. Now, I'm not going to talk about it because I know I need you guys to go and watch it. Okay, and we'll talk about it next week. But Malignant is I don't even want to say exactly how I felt about it because, we'll save it for next week's show. But I want to encourage anybody who's listening, all of the listeners, and, of course, the two of you, if you've got HBO Max, sure, you don't have to go run out to a theater. You don't have to go run and buy it if if you're in a situation. But if you've already got HBO Max, you've already got Malignant. Just watch it. Yeah. Just watch it.
Yeah. One question. It's being billed as the scariest movie in ages.
Oh, that's lies. They say that all the time. Always
don't
lies.
Listen to that. Don't ever listen to that.
If anything, none of the marketing could prepare you for what this movie is.
Oh, boy.
In fact, I think that's one of the things that is leading a lot of the negativity towards it at this point in time. Because you know how it is when you get certain movies, it's kind of hard to market them and explain what they are.
Is it like Cabin in the Woods?
It's not that good. Calm down. It's not that good or original. Cabin in the Woods is fantastic. I love Cabin in the Woods. Yeah. This Malignant is good and it's it's different.
I haven't seen it, but I've heard people talking about. Like I've heard
the best thing that I could
wild shit that goes on, especially in the third act, is what I've heard.
Right. The best thing that I could tell, especially you, Will, because I know how you take a film at the beginning really does a lot. Like after Suicide Squad, I know you're like, let me come back at it at a different time. There's a moment where it's going to cross your mind right early on whether or not what you're seeing is being done is intentionally the way it is, or if they got there on accident. And from every interview I've seen so far, everything was intentional to make it this way.
Okay.
So keep that in mind. Like, this isn't an unintentional thing. You know, look, if it comes across kind of campy at a certain point, it's supposed to be. You know.
Okay.
So
all right.
I have that, which is something, again, none of those trailers prepared you for. This thing made me thinking I was going to be watching the next Conjuring or whatever, and that is not this movie.
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, what have you been watching, Will?
Well, if we're talking movies, I actually, let's just stay with HBO Max. I actually just watched Mortal Kombat,
Oh, wow.
the new one.
Finally got around to it.
Finally
I was
got
gonna
around to
say,
it.
you went back. I was like, the one from the 90s?
Well, no. Well, but it was out of HBO Max for a while because it was only on HBO Max for, I think, 30 days or whatever it was, and it went to the theaters only, and then it just got back. So I just watched it again, and I liked the one in the 90s.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
That's probably.
I haven't seen it, so I can't really. I mean, I have seen reviews of it, like on YouTube. I've seen people do deep dive reviews of it, so I've kind of seen it, but I haven't actually seen it.
Yeah, I mean, so
I've seen people talk about it enough to.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like at the time it was much better than other stuff in that vein that was being done at that time. It seems like they tried to do a much more respectful and quality version of the source material than stuff.
You're talking about the
used-
90s version, right?
Yeah, the first
Okay.
one. The second one we don't need to talk about, but
yeah, it was a shame because I mean, I was really looking forward to catching it. And when I finally did it, I mean, they don't even they don't get to the tournament. It's like it's bizarre. It's really strange. It's how does someone sit around a room and say, let's do Mortal Kombat without the Mortal Kombat? They'll love it.
Yeah, I heard people were not thrilled with this latest one.
Yeah, it's sad.
Actually,
I had high hopes.
Yeah, that's actually solid.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat without the Mortal Kombat.
I mean-
Yeah, that was it. Now, hey, Will, were you ever a fan of the game at all, or did you know anything really about the game?
Yeah, I played
So-
it. Yeah, that was. I mean,
So
Mortal
you
Kombat
really
was big.
okay? Because there was this thing on the internet back when this game came or this movie came out, where there was a lot of people would go out there and be like, "Look, I really didn't like it," and there was this whole group that really loved the film that came out and would defend it as, well, you were expecting this great film. You were expecting you don't know anything about Mortal Kombat. No, I love Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just telling you what you guys gave me was manure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Cole Young isn't real. Okay, none of these people are real, but like you've got to go like really, you got to really screw up to make somebody who is just that bland and make the whole movie about him, right?
Mm.
And then there wasn't even any payoff of it being about him.
Yeah.
It didn't go anywhere. Why couldn't this have been? Look, I was just begging them. I was begging them to at the end, just, man, please, just call him Johnny Cage or
Right,
something.
right,
Like,
right.
You know, just I would take that. I would take that. I still wouldn't like your movie, but I would be like, well, at least the Cole thing wrapped
Right.
itself.
Right. Now, some of the character designs were cool. They were right out of the game, which was really cool to watch. And I thought they had real potential, but man, I think they probably cast people based on their ability to fight more so than their ability to pull it off a character. Because, holy smokes, I had high expectations and it fell short. I feel like there's a theme going on. I don't think I've liked anything we've talked about so far in this show, have I?
Well, I can break up some of that monotony because I watched two things this week that I actually liked both of them. I started my my horror movie binge. So every fall I love to just binge horror movies, and I usually start in September because I don't have enough time in October to watch everything I want to watch. And this week I watched two movies that I've never seen before, and I actually liked them both. The first one was the original 1956 Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which I'd never seen. And I actually thought it was pretty good. I mean, especially I've seen a few. I'm not super well versed in 50s sci-fi and all that kind of stuff, but I've seen a few, and this is one of the better ones that I've seen. Because, the 50s are a little hit and miss. Some of them are pretty good, but some of them are straight schlock.
They're all
movie
awesome.
crap.
They're all awesome. Every single one. Amazon Women on the Moon is gold.
Well, this one I thought was actually, it was pretty good. I mean, and it's only 80 minutes because a lot of movies back then were pretty short. They get right to the point when the movie opens. It's just like all of a sudden, like there's this dude who's going crazy, and then he starts telling the story. That. And like, it goes. And I thought after I watched that, I considered doing a double feature back to back of the 56 one and then the 78 one right behind it because Amazon Prime had both. But after I watched the first one, I decided not to do that. Instead, I watched The Fog from 1980, John Carpenter's The Fog, and I actually liked that.
The original one,
my favorite. Yes. So not my favorite John Carpenter movie, but I liked it because like Halloween is probably my favorite horror movie ever, the original one from '78. And if you like Halloween, you'll probably like The Fog because pretty much everybody from Halloween is in The Fog because he made it like 2 years later. So there's like people from Halloween's 1, 2, and 3 that are in The Fog. But I mean, the basic premise, just very quickly, is it's like these people live in this seaside town, and like I guess there's like this old. I guess you're supposed to be meant to believe like it's this old wives' tale or something about like these sailors who were like I can't remember if they were like stranded or whatever, but like supposedly they have unfinished business with somebody who still lives there, and like this fog comes in and like their ghosts or whatever come with the fog and like terrorize some of the people in this town, and like there's a chick who runs a radio station and a lighthouse, and so there's like some business that happens around that, and Jamie Lee Curtis is in it, and but it was pretty good. I mean, it was it's a John Carpenter movie from 1980, so there's cool music, good filmmaking, decent practical effects and stuff like that, which I appreciate.
I wonder how much of it.
So yeah, that was.
Wonder how much of it was based on that Stephen King story, The Mist. You guys,
I don't know because for a long time,
I think it's a very different story, though.
I think it is because for a long time I got the two confused, and I mean we can talk about The Mist some other time. I love The Mist, the one they made in 07. Well. I think it's fantastic.
I'm sure Will hates it.
He might. Have you seen it?
I actually love it.
Do you?
Oh wow, my guy!
I
am kind of surprised.
And here's the only reason because there were some terrible things in that movie, but the best thing about that movie was the end.
Yes.
The end.
All right.
You know what?
My God,
we're there. This is one of those moments where it's like, you know what? Sometimes
let's write this down.
I know we need a secretary to take the minutes and really write the time and the date down because, like, I got to be honest. I would have thought you would have hated that ending because a lot of people do because it's a very dark.
It is dark.
It's a super dark ending, but to me, that's what makes it because everything that comes before it is like such a very kind of paint by numbers monster movie, more or less.
Yeah.
Yep.
But that ending is really what sets it apart, and it's like, holy shit! Like they went there.
100%. And I think I even read somewhere that Stephen King said, "God, why didn't I think of ending the story that way?" Right? Because it was so perfect. But I'll tell you something about me
there's no better praise.
Something about me that maybe you guys didn't know. Are you guys aware of who Richard Matheson is?
Richard Matheson.
I feel like I've heard the name, but it's not ringing.
So Richard Matheson was a writer, a science fiction writer from a long, long time ago. He's written a lot of these things. He wrote The Incredible Shrinking Man. He wrote I Am Legend. He wrote the majority of the original Twilight Zone episodes.
Oh, wow.
So
that might be where I know the name from.
So the twist ending has always been a staple. When I was growing up, reading all of his novels and his short stories and watching Twilight Zone when I was a kid really imprinted on me. So I like these dark twists that you don't see coming. What was it? My daughter and I just watched What If, and one of the ones was for the animated Marvel series, and the Doctor Strange one ends in a similar kind of like not a happy ending kind of thing, and she hated it with a passion because to her Marvel's always been like it's been tied up in a nice bow and good guys always win, that kind of. But this one is not that. So, and then she said, "Daddy, did you like it?" I was like, "Honey, I'm sorry, I loved it. I thought it was awesome." So yeah, I do. I enjoy those types of endings. I don't like things tied up in a nice little bow sometimes.
Well, it's nice to know that we actually agree on that because I did not expect that. But something that we might not agree on, and we'll figure this out here right now. We all watched Reminiscence this week.
Yeah,
and I'm. This is what I've really been waiting to talk about now since then because I have thoughts, and I don't know. It's going to be hard to see. I'm going to try to do my best for you guys to see. I have thoughts. And I don't know. It's going to be hard to see. I'm going to try to do my best for you guys to see. I have thoughts. And I don't know. It's going to be hard to see. I'm going to try to do my best for you guys to see. I have thoughts. And I don't know. It's going to be hard to see. I'm going to try to do my best for you guys to see. I took notes.
Wow.
I took notes on this thing while I watched it.
And that's so polar opposite from me, because I'm sitting here going, I'm trying to remember this movie.
Here's the thing. Well, see, that's why. Because if I hadn't taken notes, there would probably be a couple things I'd remember, but I probably wouldn't remember a lot. Now, I have a bad memory in general, so for the show, I really wanted to make sure I wrote down what I really thought. Wow. But to get the spoiler-free part out of the way, I'll just say this. The most charitable thing I can say about this movie is that it's okay. That's the most charitable thing I can say about it. It's okay. Like, if you're a huge sci-fi fan, if there's just the very concept of anything futuristic, it leaves you spellbound, you'll probably want to watch this. But if you're not, I don't know, man. Like, I can't in good conscience recommend this movie, because I just feel like at the end of the day it's kind of a waste of time to watch it. Right. Because here's my thing. This is my overall impression when I was done with the movie, is that it really just reminded me of better movies that I would have rather watched.
Ooh.
Right. Okay.
Ooh.
All right.
I love how you start up with, the movie's okay, and then you end with stab, 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 right through the heart.
I tried to start positive. But yeah, that was one of the last note I wrote, was my overall impression is it just reminds me of better movies I'd rather watch.
All right. All right. Tom, what are your thoughts on it?
And honestly, I feel exactly the same way. Because I feel pretty exactly the same way. I think the movie, at its very best, was just okay. There was one moment, like, early on where they started to get me, but you know what I thought was the more important thing, or the more interesting thing about the movie than its plot, was everything else going on in the world around it. Like, all of that, I was like, I want to know more about that. Tell me more about that. And they were like, no, let's follow Hugh Jackman.
So, I mean, not to cut you off, we should probably set the table a little bit, for anyone who's listening who hasn't seen it, and this is still the spoiler-free section of the review. Basically, Reminiscence, if you haven't seen it, it's kind of a sci-fi / neo-noir, and the concept of it, more or less, is that there is technology that allows us to go back and basically, like, relive memories, or at least see past memories. And so Hugh Jackman is a guy who works with this. I guess it's kind of like an independent. It was like an independent sort of business that they run, or was it? Was it?
Yeah,
like
it looks like
a governmental thing, or was it just like an independent business?
I feel like it was privately owned, a privately owned business that also did some contracting and outsourced work to to the police department. Because, like you said, it is very much a noir. But it's weird because it's a noir that mostly happens in the daytime. Like, it's a very, very bright noir of all things. But it's
there's a romance.
Pretty movie.
Yeah, very well.
And there's a romance. There's a romance at the center of this too. So Hugh Jackman falls in love with this woman, and through a series of events, like, goes down this rabbit hole, and it kind of expands into this bigger thing. But just for people who hadn't seen it, just to set the table, that's kind of the basic premise of it. What did you think, Will?
So, like you guys, my memory's not great, and it doesn't say a lot that I don't remember this movie an awful lot. I will say that at the beginning, I was thinking, God, I hate this. Why is everything so wet? What's happening? Why is there so much water everywhere? Right?
So wet.
Yeah, so that was the thing. I was really ready to come on and say, I don't think this movie has any redeeming qualities whatsoever until the last 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get into it until we get to spoilers.
Sure.
But and there's one iconic shot that reminded me of that old. Remember, it was an REM video where everything was a painting kind of thing, where he's actually going. I don't know. The piano falls in through the floor into the bottom of the basement of a building which is underwater, and someone's attached to the piano, and he's diving down with a beam of light that's shining down. That one scene is far away, and it looks like it's slow motion. That one scene made me catch my breath and go, oh, if only they had gone this route for the whole movie and at least made it beautiful to look at, I would have been all about it. But I was bored, honestly. I was bored.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. So we're actually all kind of on the same page a little bit here.
Yeah. What's wrong with us? This is not good.
I know,
this is. I mean, I blame Reminiscence for being so mediocre.
I mean, it really is though. So all right. I think
we
that
can't even
covers...
have like different opinions on it. That's how mediocre your movie was.
We can get into the more nitty gritty stuff now with the spoiler part, and maybe we'll have a little bit of variance. So this is the spoiler section now. So if you haven't seen it and you actually want to see it, although I don't know if we actually gave it a ringing endorsement.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah, they want to go see it now.
If you just listen to that, and you're like, man, I really want to see this thing. So the spoiler version. So you're talking. Let's just piggyback off of what you just said about the whole the piano into the water deal. Like, yeah, it was pretty, but I didn't even think the last 15 minutes of the movie redeemed it. Honestly,
I don't think
I agree with Tom about the world to me that they built
Mm-hmm.
was far more interesting than anything that was happening in it. Like Hugh Jackman and this woman, I thought had no chemistry. I was like, why do I care about this romance?
I agree with that too.
They spent so much time talking about stuff and not enough time showing you stuff to actually make you feel what they wanted you to clearly feel. Like, it was, I don't know, it was just weird. And the movie, I felt like, had a tonal problem too, because yeah, it's a noir, but at some points it tries to be a straight noir, but then at other points it breaks into an action movie randomly for a scene or two that almost feels like it's trying to pull something out of a Tarantino movie. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that just felt disjointed. And I don't know, and maybe you guys don't remember, one of the notes I wrote down, especially in the beginning, and I don't know if this was ever a deliberate choice, but I don't think it was, because they never addressed it if it was. The chick's accent kept changing. Did you guys notice that? In the beginning, she sounded kind of French, and then in later scenes, she sounded just vaguely European.
Well, I gotta
English.
say that kind of plays into the end, because we're in spoiler part.
Yeah,
we find out she's been bullshitting the whole time anyway.
You know
what I'm saying? So it's so it's kind of if this movie wasn't so mediocre, okay, I would say that I would actually give the director points for that, because she had this character that she never could keep up with because she was a complete lie. But because nothing else in the movie was really done that well, I'm not going to say that was a constant choice.
Okay.
I think that was a fuck up too.
I hear what you're saying, but so there were three sides of her, right? The first time when she presented herself to him, and it turns out that she was actually working for that other dude, and then at the very end, she actually had fallen in love with Hugh Jackman also, and then that reveal, the way that they revealed that, when she suddenly started talking to the dude, but she was actually talking to Hugh Jackman,
that was cool.
That was.
I hated that. I thought that was fucking stupid.
Now we're back to form.
That scene. Yeah, and I swear to God, I'm watching it and I can see it coming. As soon as he starts to walk to him, I know what they're gonna do. They're gonna have him stand there, and she's talking to this dude. It is fucking stupid, because how would she know that okay, I'm gonna talk to you, assuming that in the future this dude is going to look at this memory, and then we're gonna have a conversation in the future based on what I'm saying now. I'm like, no,
because
this is fucking dumb.
Because she knew how much he loved her, and he would do anything to find her. And she dropped that thing, right? I forgot what the hell she dropped. That was the breadcrumb that allowed him to realize what was happening. Right when she got abducted, she dropped that thing, which he had found earlier on, but now we saw it later in her memories. And then that was the breadcrumb that got him to where he needed to go.
Granted, and that's true. Here's the thing, though. If I don't care about these characters, which they didn't do a good job of making me care about them or care about their romance, when you try to do something cool, it isn't cool. It's only cool if the mechanisms around what you're doing are working.
Right.
I'm not going to give it credit for being cool in and of itself.
Sure.
It was fucking dumb because I didn't care about these characters.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that. I didn't care about them either. But what I did care about was how they ended the movie, because this dude is
with Hugh Jackman committing murder.
He's not necessarily. I mean, he's an
Oh, he committed murder.
He's an eternal freeze frame. For the rest of his life, he's caught in this memory. And what I liked about it was the whole thing about that we kept going back to, where only live the good parts, right? You don't have to live the bad parts.
Yeah.
And now suddenly he decided to lock himself into a loop that all he was living was the good parts of the relationship. And I thought that was ironic, and I enjoyed that.
I think it would have been cool if I cared about those people. Like, because again, it's just like all that stuff. To me, all that stuff only works if, like, they worked. If the chemistry was there. Because that's what you need in a noir. In a noir, like, yeah, if you go back and watch old noirs from, like, the 40s and stuff like that, like, watching it through a modern lens, yes, a lot of times when people just get together randomly, it does seem very kind of ham-fisted and weird. But, like, back in that time, it worked. So if you're going to try to do that now, you've got to have two people who just have amazing chemistry to make that work. Like, that's the only way you can pull that off.
I mean, I don't refute that at all. But have you watched the rest of the movie? Right? It's par for the course. So when you try to find a gem in the rough, I mean, this is the gem for me, was that ending that was not a cookie cutter ending. That was the only thing about the movie that I thought was interesting. When we had already talked about the fact that it was just very forgettable.
Personally, I think that my favorite thing is finding the diamond in the rough. I like that version. I guess Disney owns that version, though. I don't know. Anyway, but
well, they better not hire James Gunn.
Right. So the one thing that I really liked in the movie, I really liked Tandy Newton's character, because she literally the moment that she was done with this shit is when I was done with this shit. And it was like almost like when she said it in the movie, like, look, we're done with this. Like, it was interesting because in two different ways. I was following the movie up until that point, and then when the plot started going in that direction of saying, like, this girl was in some shit. She was obviously playing you, all this other crap and whatever like that's going on. And Tandy Newton's character was basically like, look, let's not dig into this anymore. Let's move the hell on. Yeah. That is literally how I would have felt as a character in that moment, feeling that I've been like, all right, guy, we've shot enough people at this point. And
Tandy Newton in this movie is a mood.
Right, exactly. And then once she was out of it, like, I was kind of checked out too. At that point, I was finishing it to finish it, That's like another
thing that annoyed me, is because, like, before I watched the movie, I was like, you know what? Because I hadn't read anything about it. I had looked it up on Google, so naturally, like, when you pull stuff up on Google, it shows you the Rotten Tomatoes percentage and stuff. So that stuff I saw because I couldn't avoid it. So I knew that it was like, okay, people are saying it's like meh, but like in my head though, I was still like, okay, I like Hugh Jackman, I like Tandy Newton, I like noir. Like, there's things here that I can really latch onto and find to like about this. But like, they gave her like almost nothing to do outside of like the random action scene where she just shows up randomly to save Hugh Jackman when he's like getting like that was the thing, dude. Like, it was out of like, it was literally like this happens and then this it was like, it wasn't like, oh, therefore and because. It was just this, then this, then this. She just shows up randomly, and the whole movie, all she's doing is basically being like the audience's avatar, I would imagine, like with what you just said.
That's how I felt.
Yeah, like, just like, dude, stop obsessing over that. Like, we actually have real work to do.
Yeah,
and,
let's
like,
move on.
Right.
Like, they're trying to find this other guy, and the whole time Hugh Jackman is like just derailing this entire operation by like, where did you see this girl last? And like, I was getting frustrated. So that's one scene. I'll give them that. That is one scene where I'm sure what they wanted me to feel, I felt, because I was very frustrated watching that scene and just like, dude, because I didn't care. I'm like, why do you care about this chick? Like, she just showed up one day. And I'll say this. Here's one thing. Here's a positive thing I'll say. One thing that I actually really did like about it, and maybe the most clever thing that I thought the movie did, honestly, when we first meet this woman, if you recall, she comes into their business to use that memory machine because she wanted to find her keys. Right. And I thought that was actually a very simple but very clever way to use that kind of technology. Because in my head, I was like, you know what? If this existed for real, that's something that I think we'd all use that for. Like, that's like what you would do. You'd go in there and be like, hey, man, I lost this thing. I need to access my memory so I can go find it.
Watching that segment, I literally turned to my wife and said, I would never let them people in my head. I would never let them people in my head. I was like, the only way they'll be able to access me is after I'm dead. That's it. I'm never letting them in my head. I was like, that already sounds like some twisted, crazy conspiracy theory crap right there. But, again, with the story, the world... You know, it's one of those things that existed in the world. Like, so even the idea of this technology, just like we were talking about, I would have preferred a better story and still use the technology as that plot device. You see what I'm saying? I think that was better than the story that we ended up getting. I mean, the idea of... I mean, it's kind of overplayed and done. The noir hero or protagonist that's looking for a missing woman kind of thing and everything there. It's so overdone and overblown. And then there was nothing really surprising or different here from that story. No. All the different things were around that story. Yes. And that's what I wanted to hear more of. Tell me more about tell me more about how we actually got society working after all the waters rose.
Yeah,
you know, like how
and then,
did
and then
that
there's like these
back
then there's
together?
like these riots at the end.
Yeah,
that just are kind of there,
and
but
they don't have barons.
And they don't have any like consequence on the story except to just act as like background dressing. Like
exactly.
But it's infinitely more interesting than what you're supposed to care. Yeah,
and at the end of the day, why is everything flooded?
Well, yeah,
crickets,
explain
right?
It. Explain
why.
That.
So I understand.
I guess I took
it's a future, right?
Yeah, I took it to be like global warming. The seas are rising, and cities are kind of like it's like Venice, where everything is like
right. But it adds nothing to the story.
Right.
It adds nothing to the story.
If anything, it distracts.
Yeah, it does.
If anything, it distracts because your story is so basic. And that's so interesting.
Yeah,
very true.
That I'm sitting here going, no. Tell me about that.
Right.
I really don't care about this. I really don't care.
I got it.
Hugh Jackman could figure all this out off camera, and I'd be happy.
I got it. It's a sequel to The Day After Tomorrow. Suddenly, it all comes into frame.
At least that movie. You knew what it was. It did what it set out to do, and that's that. It wasn't trying to. This movie was trying to be something bigger than it really was,
right.
And it just wasn't that. So I just want to say, for anybody, I can't really recommend this movie because I just do think it's a waste of time, and I think there are better movies that kind of do similar things that this movie does. And one movie I want to shout out because I think it's a very underrated movie, and this movie reminded me of it in several ways, is a little film that was made by Steven Spielberg in 2002 called Minority Report. A movie that's in the future that deals with Tom Cruise using this technology to stop crime. That's like these people who can see the future and you can stop crime and murder before they happen. An actual movie that does have noir elements. That's good. That's far more competent. Way more interesting.
Did you?
I gotta say, only Steven Spielberg would have the balls to name a movie Minority Report starring Tom Cruise.
And wait.
That's very fair.
And did you just call Minority Report?
If you want a movie that
did you just call Minority Report a little movie?
Oh, it's not a little. Yeah, it's like
no. That was just my that was me underselling it to really oversell it. Like because that's a great movie.
I feel like everybody
it's a really great movie.
I feel like you suggesting Minority Report instead of Reminiscence is kind of everybody will have the same response that you the three of us pretty much had, and they'll go, "Oh, so I've already seen this movie." Okay,
it's not
the better version of it.
Yeah, it's not. I've
already seen a better version of this movie.
It's not a one-to-one comparison, but there's definitely parallels. There's definitely like surface level parallels to it, and the tone. I think they were shooting for like a similar tone and a similar feel and a similar kind of story. And that to me, I was just like, because that was a movie that immediately came to mind while I was watching this. I was like, I would just rather watch Minority Report. It's so good. Like underrated Spielberg movie that I feel like not enough people talk about. And yeah, so
I remember when it came out, it was really big, but it's not one of those ones that people continue to really talk about. I think it's kind of fallen into his one of his lesser ones that people bring up in conversation. I mean, it's not The Terminal or anything, but it's
but no, I don't think it gets enough credit though, because I think it's Spielberg. He's done Jaws, he's done E.T., he's done all these gigantic generational voice of a generation
AI
type movies that kids grew up with. But,
yeah.
That's another one we're gonna have to talk about at some point.
But yeah, I feel like that movie. So that's just my suggestion to people. If you're thinking about watching it, if you would rather watch something better that is not a waste of time, in my opinion, that's all it is, in my opinion. But in my opinion, I think that's a much better movie that is similar and deals with similar themes and similar kind of like set pieces and things like that. Minority Report is what you want. Trust me.
Fair enough. So I'm getting that all three of us are giving this movie a meh rating.
Meh. Meh.
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. I can't call it bad. Like, it was competently made. Like, there was nothing wrong technically with it. But, like, I don't know. It did not work for me the way that clearly they wanted it to work.
Right. It was no Greatest Showman.
And
Yep, that also is coming soon. Greatest Showman. We're gonna.
I'll say that I never need to watch this movie again,
right?
And I don't. And while I say, if you want to watch it, fine. I can't really, in good faith, really recommend it to people because I don't think you're going to have a good time. I think you'll probably be bored. So, I mean, yeah. But like I said, it's not the worst movie I've seen. I've seen way worse than this.
Not the worst. I do want to say real quick, I know we got to get out of here, but I do want to say real quick. So just to give you an idea, there was a line, I wrote this line down because I thought it was so stupid. And the movie thinks it's really smart because we hear it like 4 times throughout this movie. So there's a point in the movie where like Hugh Jackman is in one of his memories with the chick and like they're talking about whatever they're talking about. And this line is said. All endings are sad, especially if the story is happy. That's what Hugh Jackman says. They're talking about like life and shit like that.
I remember that.
So Hugh Jackman's talking to her, and he's like, "All endings are sad, especially if the story is happy." First of all, I don't know what the hell that means. And then she replies to him, "Then tell me a happy story and end it in the middle." What the fuck does that mean? What kind of pseudo-intellectual bullshit is this?
You obviously didn't hear my whole thought process then, because that is my favorite line in the entire movie.
No,
I'm teasing. I'm teasing.
Oh my god! I was about to be like,
I was about to say, man, I couldn't take that.
No,
I couldn't take that. I was like, Will, you're better than that.
But what I do like about that was the fact that he ended it that way. He ended the story in the middle because that's when he was happy. Right. That was my whole point. I think the line is stupid.
He did do that
thematically. That's cool. The line is still stupid.
I'm with you. The line is stupid. But I do like that they utilized a stupid line to get their message across.
They did the right thing with the stupid line. See, that's the thing. The movie knows the beats. It does not know how to put them together correctly to tell a really interesting story. Yeah. It knows the beats. It doesn't know the connection.
You know what it is? It reminds me of last week when we were talking, Nick, and you were talking about the execution, and I was talking about the theme. Yeah, like you said, it can thematically all make sense, and I think long run, that ultimately is very strong and helps. So like if you're going to come in and actually pick apart Reminiscence, I think you have to give it credit for things where it does that well, Will. However, when we're talking about execution and everything there, I mean,
yeah,
it's kind of like you said, look, if I don't care about these people, it's just not cool.
Well, I'm also watching
and I don't care about these people.
Yeah, I'm also in the midst of watching Ted Lasso. And just like Ted Lasso, I'm trying to be a kinder, nicer person to everyone. So I'm looking for that gem. I'm looking for that positivity.
I, too, am trying to be a better man, but I'm heartless.
Look, I tried. Believe me. I tried. Like, I tried to start off with something positive. I will say, like, the whole trying to find the car keys thing I thought was good. The world, look, the world building was great.
Will is getting in trouble. Will's getting in trouble.
We're
right
going to
now.
wrap up here, Barry. We're gonna wrap up here.
Will, his life was just threatened. I saw it.
Yes.
Blink twice, Will.
Yeah.
Blink twice if you need.
we are going to wrap up here, but I will say, to try to end it positively, they did do a really good job with the world building. Everything around what was actually important was really cool. It's just
that was cool.
I just couldn't get behind the story.
Yeah.
That's really that's really the story of this movie. I just couldn't get behind the story.
I think
I think we've talked Reminiscence to death.
Yes.
I think we've given it more time than it probably deserves. But I got to tell you, last week you gave us a challenge of a movie to watch, Nick.
I did.
And
I did.
I know that I checked it out. Will, you got a chance to watch?
I did. Yeah,
the movie as well.
I did. I sure did.
All right, tell us what this movie was, real brief here, Nick, so that we can get Will out of here.
Yes, sir. So the concept of the movie challenge really is for one of us to suggest a movie to the other two, and basically it's a movie that neither of the other two has seen that probably the other person loves. In this case, I love this movie. It's called Bernie. Came out in 2011. It's kind of a mock documentary, and it's based on a true story. It's an absolutely true story of a man in Texas who was like very involved in his church and his community, like the nicest dude, like Mr. Rogers, Bob Ross, all wrapped up into one. Nicest dude you could ever meet in your life. And somehow or some way he gets involved with this older lady. They become really tight friends, but there's also like some weird, like, are they dating? Is there like a physical relationship? Is there a sexual relationship? And she's horrible. She's the opposite of him. She's just like the most annoying, mean-spirited lady. And spoilers, he ends up killing her. Like, he shoots her, and he gets put on trial and goes to prison. And so Richard Linklater made this sort of mock documentary. Jack Black plays Bernie, the lead character. Shirley MacLaine is the older woman, Marjorie. And it's like a mock documentary format. So if you're familiar with like the Christopher Guest movies or anything like that, they interview the townspeople in between actually showing you scenes of like Bernie and her together. I'm a big fan of that kind of thing. There's a lot of dark humor in it. I personally think it's one of Jack Black's best performances ever, and I think it's a very underrated movie that doesn't get talked about a lot. But what did you guys think about it?
Well, I got to say, there's one line that I, in particular, is exactly where I fell in love with this movie. And the guy says, which I love even more now, because I did not know these were real people. Okay, I was watching this, and I had no idea these were real people, so I thought this was all just being made up. This was all a mockumentary. I was thinking this was fake, right? And that this guy was an actor. But so this line, he was really talking about people at this point. But the guy says, well, you have Bernie, who is just the nicest guy I've ever met. And then you have Miss Nugent, who is not nice. Not nice to a large degree. Just evil. And she was just more evil than he was nice, I guess. I love that. That, to me, that line explains this whole movie, what you've got there. And I got to tell you, the first time around, like at the beginning, it was kind of slow to get into. I mean, I'll tell that to anybody. It's a little slow getting into. And but once it started to pick up, and I kind of had gotten a feel for who this Bernie character was and how he played into this town, this small town. And then they introduced Miss Nugent, and this person, just like you said, just the worst, just mean to be mean. I don't even know how they worked together, but, you know, apparently it did. Or didn't, I guess. Someone did die.
It worked until it didn't.
It did die. Yeah, so no, I thought it was great. I thought Jack Black was funny. I thought, but to me, the best kicker of it all was, of course, you know, if you're reading this now or listening to this now, we've spoiled it for you, but I don't think it was a thing that they were keeping to themselves, that this wasn't real. But I didn't know that. So for me, it was like this great surprise at the end, finding out, wait a minute, these are real people.
Yep. That's exactly my feedback. I texted you guys right as I started to watch this movie. Like I don't know.
Yes, you did.
I don't know if I can finish this. I really thought I was.
Gentlemen, this is a 90-minute movie. Just to give you, this is 90 minutes, and Will didn't think he was going to be able to make it through.
I did not. So
No.
I'm not a fan of dark comedy. I can't stand mockumentaries. To your point, Tom, I just don't like. But starting into it, knowing there was a true story, because it says it at the very beginning, Jack Black has been hit or miss for me in a lot of things. But then I was talking to Tom before you came on, Nick. If I had known that these people were real people that Linklater was actually including in the movie, it would have made all the difference to me. Because I'm thinking, oh my God, these people, they're terrible actors. They're supposed to be like, you can't really make actors sound like they're real people in a documentary. It's really hard to do. But then they mixed it in. I think I got even more confused because then they had Mcconaughey as a DA actually going after him, who's obviously an actor, but dealing with these other people who are actually real people in between. And some of these lines were gold, but they would have been gold if I knew these were real people saying these lines. Like, these are the actual lines people are using.
Well, I got to tell you, the first time I saw this movie, I didn't know at first when I watched it that they were real people. It was a mixture of real people, but I loved that though. Like, even though I didn't know that, I still loved it because, like, yeah, like that's, I don't know, like you've got these real people who he's interviewing who were really there and really knew these people. And you're right, you cannot, and that's why I love that he included them, because you couldn't have any actors like be like these people,
right?
Because they're the real people,
right.
But I love the fact that they've got McConaughey, because that was such a great, like, when I went into the movie for the first time years ago cold, I didn't really know, other than Jack Black and stuff, I didn't really know who was in it. So when I saw it, I like popped huge when I saw McConaughey come up on screen, because I was just like, "What? He's in this? That's amazing!" Like,
right.
And I love the combination of the actors and the real people.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's hilarious.
Those two ladies that were being interviewed together, and one of them was saying stuff, and the other girl, all she would do is like hee, because she like something about how they're having sexual, and she's like, I was like, oh my God, that's. Now, come on, no one would really be like that.
I don't know if you know this. The lady who was talking, not the lady who was he-heing, the lady who was talking is Matthew McConaughey's mom.
I did not know that.
I
did not know that.
McConaughey's mom. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I will tell you what it did do to me, though, is after when they started popping out the pictures with their names, and it made it very obvious that it was the real people. It made me go, God damn it, I got to go watch the movie again now. I do. I got to watch it again now, because now it's a different context.
This happens to you every week.
I know.
Every week.
I know.
You get to the end of the movie and go, now that I know what it is, I got to see it again.
But I'll tell you, I was unbelievably impressed with Jack Black. I think this was the best role he's ever played. He embodied this guy.
He should have been nominated for an Oscar for that movie, and I'm not kidding. That's not hyperbole. Like, it's so good. He did such a good job.
At first, he annoyed the living crap out of me. Like, I was like, oh God, I'm not going to handle it. But then once he kind of moved away from the mockumentary a little bit more and more towards actually telling a story, I got more into it, and that's when I started watching it and really enjoying the movie after that. So overall, I gotta say, in spite of myself, I did enjoy the movie because I enjoyed Jack Black's performance and because I enjoyed Linklater's inclusion of the real people in this thing as a huge surprise to me. But it's one of those movies where I liked it after the fact, not during.
Right. Well, I'm glad. I mean, since that's a movie that is very near and dear to me, I love that movie. I'm a huge fan of mock documentaries. Like I said, I mentioned the Chris Guest movies earlier. Those are in my opinion, those are some of the funniest movies ever made. So I love it, and I was interested to see what you guys would think about it. Thankfully, it was free to watch on YouTube. It might still be free to watch on YouTube if anybody's interested. I don't think knowing the outcome of this story makes it less interesting to watch.
No,
honestly.
It doesn't.
No.
Like, because part of the fun to me of watching it is really just in the making of it, when you see these different elements kind of thrown together. Listening to people talk about it, it sounds weird to have a mixture of interviews, but with actually dramatic retelling of the story. In my opinion, though, it works very well. Yeah. And I think Richard Linklater did a good job of actually mashing those different elements together and making it engaging
Yep.
and making it like a really unique way to tell that story.
Yeah, also you're right, and it's actually I watched it on Peacock, so it's actually available on Peacock.
Okay, well, there you go. So if it's still on YouTube, if you don't have Peacock, you might be able to check it out on YouTube for free. YouTube actually has some pretty good free movies right now, just as a general FYI for people out there who are listening to this.
Cool.
But it's also available on Peacock, so right on. I'm glad you actually ended up liking it. I didn't think you would. I really didn't think you would like it at all.
I know. I didn't at first.
I'll be honest. I didn't think I would either. I was just kind of looking at it and going, I was like, and then as it started, I started thinking, because I'll be honest, I'm not really like the biggest Jack Black fan. Like, I don't dislike him.
Right there with you.
Know, but it's just, the movies that most people who really are big Jack Black fans, like, that they like him in, he probably annoys me in. It's kind of like the same thing with, like, Adam Sandler.
Sure.
So I went into this with low expectations. My expectations were so low. Like, I would think I was editing at the same time that it was on, and then it started to pull me in and everything, playing on the other monitor, and then I'm like, there, and I definitely, by the time I know it had my full attention, by the time it hit that line that I quoted, because I swear I immediately typed that whole line out and sent it to Nick, so that he, one, knew I was watching it, and two, knew that I had to have loved it if I'm texting it to him.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, that's really cool, guys. So that's going to wrap us up, I think, for this episode. Next week, as we kind of teased earlier, we are going to be watching *Malignant* and talking about it.
That's what I hear.
There's some apparently batshit crazy stuff that happens in that, so you guys are definitely going to tune in and listen to that. So
you're not prepared.
But yeah, so on behalf of Will and Tom and myself, thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you guys next week on Let's Get Real.